Welcome back to Invest Global. Today we're going to do an honest outlook of the crypto market. There's a lot of people in the space saying that, hey, 100K by December, it's definitely going to happen. I was saying that, in January of this year, that was my price target, but I want to be as objective as possible and kind of remove emotion from the market. So many people get caught up, especially in crypto, is almost seeing these different projects like religions. And I think that's one of the biggest issues we have in the space is, hey, you got to look at things objectively. That's why I always talk about looking at things from a fundamental, technical, sentimental, and on-chain perspective, kind of analyzing through all those different mediums. And I have a video on that linked down below in the description called How to Do Your Own Research. And it goes through all of those. But like I said in today's video, it's really focusing on the technical perspective. I think there's a lot of opportunity outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum in the market, and that's what I'm personally interested in. That's why I've been making this DeFi Decoded series on how to get started with these different ecosystems. So we'll be talking about that a lot today. But to kick it off, I was just on the Bitcoin chart, but I wanted to show you this in the total crypto market cap, because when I look at this just objectively, I'm curious what you guys see. If you've watched the Global TA series, I talk about this. This to me looks like a cup and handle. It looks like basically the same cup and handle that we had right here. I was looking at this just before I recorded this, and it's quite interesting because you essentially had this small cup and handle that really kicked this off. I was in North Macedonia, I remember, when this kicked off, and the markets went insane. I had like a long trade open, and I went to bed. It was like in Ohrid, North Macedonia, and I woke up, and it was like a ridiculous run-up. But the most important thing to analyze here, and it was this run-up, by the way. So the most important thing to analyze here when you're looking back at this is going, okay, when this is playing out now, it's harder to look at it because you really got to zoom out, and to the untrained eye, it's like, is that really a cup and handle pattern? But one thing you have to look at is kind of the delayed explosive breakout, right? So it looked like maybe this was going to be, but it kind of dipped down, potentially invalidated it. And what I see is, okay, really what we're going to be doing is moving sideways a little bit more, potentially into April, right? So the reason for that, this is in my opinion, then we'll get to some of these other opportunities, because again, with the crypto market cap, if you're looking at an explosion here, this is going to shift so much money into altcoins. It's pretty crazy. Typically what we see if we're studying past market cycles, like in 2017, we saw Bitcoin, whenever Bitcoin had a huge rise, altcoins kind of lagged a little bit and then kind of caught up with Bitcoin, and relative to market cap size, that's where the most gains are made, right? You could just only hold a Bitcoin if you're not trading every day, if you're not in this market every day. That's one thing you definitely can do, and I think that's a great strategy for more passive. But if you want to be trading this, and where, hey, maybe if Bitcoin does, it won't even do a 2x from here, right? So it won't even do a 2x to get to $100,000. So is that interesting? Or is there more interesting opportunities in decentralized finance and things going on with metaverse plays, NFT plays? I'm going to be making a bunch more videos on this all leading up to Christmas. But basically what you can see here is the fact that we had this actual cup and handle pattern play out basically the exact same right here. And again, it's a little bit hard if you haven't gone through the Global TA series. I really recommend you do, because it's basically, it lays out how to use technical analysis. I can even shift this. The main thing for anyone new to technical analysis is it's not an exact science. It's basically, for example, any of these lines, it's always an area. So whenever you're drawing a trend line, it really represents a range. That's why, for example, on this Bitcoin chart, I have it drawn out like this instead of a given line, because if you can see here historically, this is just how I personally like the chart, is kind of in this structural aspect. We call it all these areas, right? So you're looking at key levels of change, right? So key areas of support or resistance, that's kind of how you lay out a chart to begin with. And then if you're looking at ranges, this is a perfect one set up now, because Bitcoin's kind of primed to break out of this. We've kind of been in this descending wedge right here, and that's where we have some opportunity to break out of that. But almost more importantly is what's playing out here in the market cap chart, and that's what I was talking about. So basically with this, what we want to understand is, yes, we typically, how you use the measurement of price target out of this is the low point to the high point, right? So the point of resistance was around this area, the low point was around right there. So we would pull that, and that would be our price target if we couldn't see any of this, right? So if, sorry about that, if we could not see any of this. So you have to remember when this is playing out, like this is every day, right? So this chart, each candle represents one day, and as this plays out, then you're trying to speculate. So maybe people use this, right? So what you would do is you would use that kind of as the potential take profit price, but they missed on, let's just duplicate this and see exactly how many X's they missed out on. And the whole point here is this is a smaller version. This is a micro version of what's playing out now. And I'm not saying this is necessarily going to happen, but this is just something you have to take into account. And this is why I find the opportunities in altcoins, not just in Bitcoin, pretty compelling right now. So, man, I always forget how to clone these. Let's see. Okay, clone right here. So that would be, it's around 3 times. Yeah. So if we're actually looking at the peak, it's right around, 3 times. So that's 3 of those that initial draw out. But the thing you have to realize is it didn't happen overnight, right? It wasn't one giant candle like this. I mean, this is an insane candle, but we're looking at this as a cup and handle with a crazy breakout, right? So we're looking at the exponential effects. I think it's Albert Einstein that says, when you're looking at compounding effects or exponential effects, he says, the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. He who understands it earns it. He who does not pays it. So, people that are in credit card debt, they're the ones paying the compounding, and people that are investing, like in this space, they're the ones that are gaining this compounding interest. And it's truly the eighth wonder of the world because it can work so well for you. Look up a great chart of this is Warren Buffett's net worth over his age, Charlie Munger's net worth. Just Google that in. And it's an insane chart. It's crazy. That shows you exponential. But back to the matter at hand. Speaking, this is going to be a longer video, but later on I'm going to be talking about Charlie Munger and going against the whole crypto community and my thoughts on that. But the points here is we're looking at this, right? So we did the measure move price target breakout. To the peak there, we hit around what? So 3 times the price target or the actual measure move, this guy, that we would calculate from this, right? So from this pattern, you then have a breakout target. The breakout target was right here. What we found was it was 3 times that, right? So the most important thing to understand here is when you identify something like that, you can't just say, oh, that's one. You have to look at the whole situation. So this is why I'm talking about bird's eye view, is because then from there, another thing we would have to do is go, okay, wait a second. So how many days did it take to do that, right? So let's see, from the beginning of this cup and handle, let's just do right there, to the end of the cycle, boom, right there. Whoops, let me pull that down. How many days was that? So what we can do is February 19th to April 16th. So that's very important to take into account, right? So that's one thing that you always have to factor in. So we know that. We know around the amount of time it would take to see a breakout like this. Now let's do the exact same thing to what we're currently in, right? So let's do this exact same model. It's going to be crazy. I know this is going to seem insane, but it could send us pretty parabolic. This is just one possibility. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if you watch that Global TA course, the whole point of it is to give you the tools. I don't think I'm a better trader than anyone who watches that series because I basically just put what I know about trading in that series completely for free. I didn't charge anything for it. Global TA is just a free version of how I trade and how I've learned from other people to successfully trade in pretty much any capital market. But in crypto, it's very, very important you know this because just in this exact same example, right? So we pulled out the cup and handle, and you could even, again, you can be a bit more conservative and put it like there. But like I said, it's always a range. It's never an exact points with technical analysis. So then we would measure move price target out of this, which this is going to be ridiculous. But this is how some people go to those conclusions. This is why I say you can't just rely on technical analysis because I would never trade purely based off the information that I'm showing you now. I would always take into account fundamental analysis, technical analysis, which is what we're focusing on now, and then on-chain analysis is always very, very important. Will Clemente is really, really good on that, and Willy Woo. Personally, I focus on technicals and fundamentals, and then I kind of outsource the research to some of other experts in the field. Some things I do that are paid, where I get different reports from people that they have teams of people spending 40, 60 hours a day, or sorry, not a day, 40, 60 hours a week rather, researching these things, endlessly. That's their pure expertise. And it's always good to kind of build off of strengths. So if you're good at technicals, if you're good at fundamental analysis, build off those. And then things like maybe on-chain analysis, maybe sentimental analysis, you can kind of outsource to other tools. Like sentimental analysis really is just, people's emotions. Fear and greed index is good for that. Twitter's pretty good for that. I might make a video on all these things, but back to the chart here. Like I said, this is just crazy, right? So this would just be one of those moves. And then hypothetically, right, so let's do it off this. Hypothetically, it would be 3 times that. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that is very bullish. To me, that's very, very bullish. I am going to take that into account. And the biggest thing here that you have to realize with the total crypto market cap versus just Bitcoin doing well is the total crypto market cap, that's really going to explode the altcoins. And that's why if we're tracking things like decentralized finance, what's going on in this space, and we're seeing the total value locked is $107 billion, this is a massive indicator that, hey, when I literally started tracking this market, doing daily DeFi, a series on my channel let's see, right here. So, you want to talk about parabolic. You want to talk about parabolic. That's a 4x just in total value locked. So there's so much more to be made is my point in the projects versus this. That's just like a blank. That's just if you're throwing darts, right? So you could have bought the DeFi Pulse Index, which I was talking about back then, and showcasing it every single day, tracking it. before it did this crazy 4x, but there's a 40x waiting for you in some of these projects that grouped in here, right? Because this actual statistic, the total value locked in, doesn't really represent a given project, right? It represents all the projects combined. So in that way, it's kind of like the crypto market cap. Yeah, you can invest in the crypto market cap, or you can invest in one project that has 10 times the upside that the crypto market cap would. So I thought DeFi Rate did a good job on this article. I sometimes check in with their stuff. They basically talk about every single project that I talked about in my video. I made a video back when I was in Porto, Portugal, and I talked about, hey, Banky got listed on Binance. This opens the floodgates for all these other projects. I basically talked about it. I recorded that video within like 2 hours of the news hitting Twitter. I usually don't check Twitter that much, but that day I was kind of on top of it. And I basically included all these things. I said top 7 AVAX altcoins. You can look at it. It was a few videos ago. And also, I will be returning to daily videos probably pretty soon. It's just been a lot traveling from Portugal back to the U.S. and kind of getting things started with family here. And then I'm heading back to South America in a little bit. So with Avalanche, you have XAVA. I talked about that. Banky, Pangolin. I'm not going to go into detail what they said because like I said, I talked about all these in that video. PF. Penguin Finance, YieldDX, and then I included I think 2 more, like AVAX Stars, which is very, very low market cap. But the point here is that why am I talking about this? Well, each of these ecosystems you could passively invest in, right? So like right now, for example, Avalanche is taking a bit of a dump. This is where I like to invest in projects, right? When there's not as much hype, when people are kind of died down about stuff. This is a pretty good, honestly, this is not a bad time to invest in Avalanche now that I look at it. I might put a little bit more. I personally hold this long term, so I don't look at this chart every day. But the point is finding projects in the Avalanche ecosystem to invest in that have more upside. So Avalanche has more upside than the overall DeFi Pulse Index, right? Because Avalanche has that asymmetric upside. Then you go from Avalanche to Banky, to Trader Joe, to AVAX Stars. I'm not recommending you invest in AVAX Stars. I'm just giving examples. These have crazy more upside, right? Because look at Avalanche, just a perfect way of looking at this. Whenever you're looking at a project, I like to look at, okay, is it being used? Does it actually have trading volume? Yes, this has a lot of trading volume. What's circulating supply to max supply, a little bit of tokenomics there, and then look at market cap. So 23 billion, and then we look at something like AVAX Stars, and it's ridiculous. They have like maybe, I can't remember. Yeah, 2 million. So think about that. I mean, that's pretty insane. The amount of more room to grow and how much more volatile it can be. Now, that volatility could mean it could crash down. That's why it's up to you. You have to understand investing. You have to do your research. That's why I talk about that on this channel. But the point is I'm kind of explaining how I think through things. So there's much more upside to these lower market cap projects. It just depends on your risk appetites. Beyond Avalanche, I really like Fantom and Solana as the different ecosystems that I would pick personally out there. So when I talked about in the beginning of this video, there is opportunity when we see the shift in crypto market cap and in Bitcoin when we're looking at this from a technical analysis perspective. But now we're looking at Fantom and Solana, these other ecosystems. These are layer 1s, right? So Avalanche is a layer 1. And then on top of that, there's things like Banky, there's things like Trader Joe, there's things like AVAX Stars. And then we have Fantom, there's things on top of this, like Spooky Swap, like Beethoven X that I like. And with Fantom, this is also not a terrible time to buy. I mean, Fantom hasn't even recovered as much as Avalanche has, I don't think, if the chart loads. But anyways, Solana is another one. This is great for onboarding people. I'll probably honestly do a video series on all this stuff pretty soon. I have so many different videos I need to make, honestly, in between now and Christmas. But yeah, so if you guys have any requests or anything like that, you can let me know in the comments. Also, we have the Telegram group, which is linked down below in the description. Twitter is at investglobal.io. Or _IO rather, and everything else, like all the videos I talked about throughout this video is linked down below in the description. But to kind of end this out, I did want to talk on these 2 articles. So I find what's going on with Spotify really interesting. I actually am an investor in Spotify, not an early stage investor. I just hold, I have some equity with them. Just because I find it fascinating with what's going on in the audio world. I think when they bought Joe Rogan's podcast and they started strategically building up this network of podcasts, I think that is massive because all this ad dollars are going from radio into podcasting. Podcasting is massive. You have incredibly high leverage. It's one of the most high leverage businesses out there. Think about, like, Joe has it set up perfect because his only staff member is Jamie. Like, he only has one person on his staff. It's very like Tim Ferriss style where they set things up where it's very, very lean. And I personally like that. And I think podcasting allows people to do that. And I think moving this in a decentralized way is even more interesting than Spotify. So this article did catch my eye, basically talking about, giving things back to the artists. And this is even in the music space. So Spotify, yes, I think they're dominating the music space personally. Besides that, you have like Apple Music and like Pandora, but I think they're killing it there. But if we could have a decentralized version, that would be even better, because you could give more of you're basically cutting out the middleman. So you think of Spotify, or you think of any centralized company, the reason they give you shitty service, the reason they give you, like upcharge prices, the reason you have all these things is because it's the middleman. It's the middleman cut. But if you go straight from consumer to creator, or creator to consumer, whether it comes to money or whether it comes to the service or music they provide, it comes down to, okay, cut out the middleman, and it's a better experience for both sides. And that's what I think people don't really realize is you have so much opportunity with creators to kind of give back using blockchain technology instead of relying on some like centralized corporation who's the middleman between the funds. I think that's kind of dumb. And then lastly here, I love Charlie Munger. I love Poor Charlie's Almanac. Him and Warren Buffett, I think they're great fundamental investors. Fundamental. But people in the crypto space start bashing them. I'm not even listening to Charlie Munger now. He's 97 years old. He's probably still saying smart things. But I like his older stuff, his kind of time-tested things, rather than, don't take people's picks, short-term picks. You should focus in investing on building your long-term skills. Because your skills, you could get dropped in the middle of nowhere. And as long as you have your skills with you, some of them obviously have to be tangible, like physical skills, and then some of them are kind of soft skills, like intellectual skills. And when it comes to investing, building those, going back and reading basic economic books, these things are so important. And that's why so many people get mad in the crypto space. I'm not even honestly going to read this article. I'm just going to rant about it. But it's just weird to see, because it's like people like Peter Schiff arguing with other people. And I get that it's entertaining, but at the end of the day, it's kind of noise. It's kind of... it's entertainment, which investing should not be. This should not be entertaining. Do not watch me to be entertained. You should watch this if you want to build the capital. That's the biggest thing. I think so many people get that mixed up. And anyways, the point is, that's what I focus on. These videos for my channel, at least, this is kind of like a brain dump of what I'm thinking about during the day, what I'm investing in, and kind of how my thoughts change around the decentralized finance space, the international investing space, travel, all these different things. So that's all for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, let me know in the comments down below. You can join the Telegram group, link down below in the description. Also Twitter @investglobal_IO. If you want individual help, any one-on-one consulting, there's a link down below where you can schedule a call, or you can contact us via the email down below. That's all for this video. Invest Global, and until next time.